Welcome. I think we're going to get started. My name is Carola McGiffert. I'm a senior fellow here at CSIS and also director of our Smart Power Initiative, which is an outgrowth of the CSIS Smart Power Commission, which released its report a little over a year ago. It was chaired by Richard Armitage and Joseph Nye and looked at ways in which the United States could regain its image and influence around the world to promote not only U.S. interests but also the global public good. And one of the areas that came out of of intense focus that came out of the report and are clearly an issue that's getting a lot of attention in Washington and around the world is how to cooperate with our friends and partners on environmental and climate change issues. And so we, as part of our Smart Power speaker series, we're very honored to have today Dr. Yang Ji-won. Dr. Yang is currently the Vice President of External Affairs in the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, where he is a specialist in environmental biotechnology. This is Korea's leading research university. He also has a wide range of experience both inside and outside of the laboratory, having made significant contributions in both research and policy. He is the co-chairman of the Daejeon Green Growth Forum, and on his right is one of the co-founders, Emmanuel Pasterich, who will join us for the Q&A session. Daejeon is known as the think tank and research center hub of South Korea, which is home to over 200 research institutions, and therefore it has a unique access to leading scientific and engineering minds. The Daejeon Green Growth Forum is Korea's first effort to integrate efforts of the Ministry of the Environment, the central government, industry, and local government to address environmental issues at the local level. And the forum is also in the process of forming a collaborative alliance of eco-cities to better implement environmentally sound policy in urban areas. The timing of their arrival here and some of the things that our new administration are thinking about work very well. And so we're looking forward to hearing about what you are doing and maybe learning some lessons as we in Washington go forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carola, for a kind introduction. She speaks so fast.
Sorry.
I cannot speak so fast. So let me just start by just reading the first paragraph of the paper I prepared. And I'm going to follow almost the same sequence as my paper. So I'm not going to read the whole paper, so please allow me just for the first section. The first chapter is the challenges of Korea faces, our country problems. Americans can discuss the environment in Asia with great detachment because Asia is not that close. The water pollution generated by coastal factories, the yellow dust storms generated by desertification in northern China, the assault on ecosystem in Asia is something of an abstraction for many Americans. But in Korea, the fallout from these phenomena is real. The yellow dust turns our skies dark and makes it difficult to breathe. The quality of the water we drink, the fish we eat, the cities we inhabit are directly impacted. So what I'm trying to say in this chapter is we do have many, almost all kinds of environmental problems in Korea, mainly because of due to the rapid economic growth for the last 30 to 40 years. We didn't have almost nothing, we didn't have anything to eat right after the Korean War, like in 1950s, even when I was very young, as elementary school kids, we experienced Korean War from 1950 to 1952 for about 3 years, and before that time, we've been ruled by the Japanese people for the period of 35 years. And right after that, Korean War happened. So since 1960s, the President Park started to push economic development in the name of 5-year economic development. So we didn't care about the pollutions, environmental problems, but the consequences of that rapid industrialization was very severe. Now here we are, and we do have dust storm, yellow dust storms from the China industrialization, plus desertification of the northern China. And these days, since the Kyoto Protocol in 1997, the climate change problems has been a very important issues in the world. And we do have same issues in our country. And we've been ranked number 10 producers of carbon dioxide in the world. But the problem was, the most serious problem is, we have to reduce. We have a duty to reduce the carbon emissions, but the rate of increase of carbon dioxide was number 1. The Korea was number 1. Now we've been pushed to number 2. China replaced our number 1 place. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say, we have many problems related to the environmental crisis. Energy problem, we import 98% of our energy sources, and we do have a shortage of natural resources problems. So locally or nationally, we have sustainability problems. Okay, so but as I stated in the beginning, we've been through a very rapid development of our country. So Koreans are accustomed to very rapid things, rapid jobs. So we can be accustomed to a rapid remediation of our environment. So that's the point I'm making. So that's the hope that Korea offers. There's an ability to reinvent its culture and habits rapidly to meet new challenges that we face. And nowadays, everywhere we look at in this country, in our country, the Green New Deal, green growth, and that kind of concept has been very popular, like in the United States or any other parts of the world. So, but we see, as Emmanuel Pastorich sees, there's no concrete procedures or steps that should be taken local level. So that's about it I started with. And the second thing is the international consensus that grows for the last decade. So there are environmental preservations and energy conservations and carbon dioxide emission reductions are the part of calculations by which progress is assessed. Has been a long one in Korea too. So as professionals, like researchers and professors of science and technology majors, our members of Green Growth Forum are are not like the Protestants, like ordinary NGO people who are accustomed to protest, and you might be familiar with, heard about candle vigils, which has been popular for the last year in Korea to protest against the American beef. Have you heard about that? But experts of our group are not that kind of people, so we are professionals who concerns about the environmental problem. So that's the second thing. And then international level of conferences or the summits in a higher level, as I included in the page 3 of the paper. In 2005, 4 years ago, in March, the ministerial level of meeting was held in Seoul, Korea, and there was the conference on the environment and development in Asia and Pacific, and that initiative was intended to create a synergy between economic growth and environmental sustainability. That two, growth and conservation, is always, against each other. But starting the last decades, it became known to be can go along each other. And the second thing I mentioned about is the Bali summits, a Bali conference, which was held in 2 years ago, December. Actually, 1.5 couple of months in December, Bali. United Nations Climate Change Conference. And there was also important, that the product of that conference was the Bali roadmap, including a summary of the tracks that are essential to reaching us a secure climate future. And thirdly is G8 Daejeon Summit, which was held last July. And if there were any lessons learned from these international efforts since the Kyoto Protocol, 1997, it is that firm roots at the local level will be essential to any international effort to address climate change, and that efforts like Daejeon Green Growth Forum are not minor variations on the international conference, but rather the front line. And I'm going to talk about my institution's doing on the climate change or environmental protections or Green Growth Forum. Our new president, Seo, formerly Department of Head, MIT Mechanical Engineering, he started his position 2.5 years ago, roughly, and then with more than 70 professors in our college, in our university, started focus on the important issues, which is we call EWS, which is energy, environment, and sustainability, and water and sustainability, and which we thought those 4 issues, EWS, is the most important problems that the humankind should solve in the 21st century. Otherwise, our life on the earth might be endangered. So that, in other words, if any institution or any schools or any individuals can solve any of these 4 problems, then he can or she can contribute a lot to the human beings, and our institution can become also popular, famous, I mean. So we've been doing lots of things. I mean, the EWS related research is going on, and then last week even the President Lee Myung-bak almost has chosen before I leave. It's not been fixed, and about 1 billion project has been decided to go for additional budget for this research, such as electrical vehicles, mobile harbors, and fuel cells, and desalination of seawaters, and kind of stuff. So I can remember 5 or 6 has been fixed. So each project will be endowed about 100 million US dollars. So KAIST is in front of that research project, will be a leader in that research field. And one thing I can add about is with fuel cells and hydrogen energies and desalination kind of project, we can set up a plan to solve the problems of Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, to make their land like California land. Okay, so we are proposing we submit a proposal to. It's been possible. And page 5, I'm going to introduce Daejeon Green Growth Forum. And as I mentioned, about 20 members, 20 peoples, mostly gathered by the co-founder of Dr. Pastridge, 1 or 2 each from the National Laboratory of Daejeon Science Town, or some university professors of environmental science, voluntarily gathered and start to hold a seminar on environmental issues, different issues. And then it was about slightly longer than 1 year ago, and then President Myung-bak Lee announced last August on our Independence Day, 60th birthday Independence Day, anniversary of Independence Day, green growth, low carbon and green growth is our primary agenda of our country. And then Ministry of Environment wants to organize a local level of a green growth forum in 16 cities in our country. So one of them is Daejeon Green Growth Forum. And what we think is our Daejeon Green Growth Forum is very special in character because of Science Town is in Daejeon City, which is the technology clusters, which house many national institutes and many research institutes of corporations and companies. And Daejeon has got good size of population, 1.5 million people. And also we have mountains surrounded by mountains, so it's a green. And we do have nice 3 rivers going through that central city of Daejeon. So if we can make city of Daejeon eco-city, then it could be a good model in Korea, in Asia, and even in the world. So we are trying to make a coalition between Daejeon and Tsukuba of Japan and Palo Alto in California, because 3 cities has got the similarities of science towns. So we visited Tsukuba City last month, and we are visiting Palo Alto this week. Tomorrow. Is it tomorrow already? That's about it. I can talk about our forums. And in page 6, I already talked about the announcement made by President Lee. Low carbon green growth is a new national development paradigm that creates new growth engines and jobs with green technology and clean energy. The world has gone through the stages of agricultural, industrial, and information revolutions. Now it is entering the age of an environmental revolution. So also the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who happened to be a Korean, spoke last December in Poznan, Poland, about a global Green New Deal as the best chance for securing a sound and solid international climate agreement in Copenhagen in next December. His speech was followed by a new flurry of activity around the world, but particularly in the United States, Korea, and Japan, opening the door for possible collaboration as the new level of intensities. And the next thing I would like to talk about is implication of national policy shift for the Daejeon Green Growth Forum. And our mayor, Park Sung-hyo, on the October 6th last year, announced this vision of Green City Daejeon. Green City Daejeon. So it's the same thing. So formally, there is a conflict. People think that there are conflict between growth and the conservation or environment, but now the concept changed. That's the same thing, but the important thing is, as a mayor, he started to think about green growth is very important. So after we go back to Korea, he promised to give us some research fund, not the research fund, some kind of fund to operate, our forums. So our plans in the future is to develop into a think tank for environmental technology and policy, and will have impact throughout Asia because of the stature in research of the institutions in Daejeon, with the goal of inspiring other communities to employ locally the technologies available in their research institutions. That includes we can start with revitalization of the bike paths, and also the system for offering free bicycles to citizens, and the building of a series of extensive bike passes, all bike things. to save energy and to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. And also we have to reach out to the world as a local level, from the local level to reach out the world. The next step for our forum was the pursuit of an international coalition for eco-cities or environmental cities. This effort is imagined as an alliance of local government interested in cooperation on environmental issues. There already exists an Eco-City World Summit, which meets once a year, but the Eco-City World Summit consists of a gathering of experts from around the world to discuss eco-cities and contains no mechanism for long-term cooperation at the working level between cities trying to become ecologically sustainable. That's the difference between our plans, and the World Eco-City Summits. But we, as I said, we already visited Tsukuba in Japan, and we'll visit Palo Alto, and we'll talk about it later. And I think I should conclude my talk by reading the 5 lines of the paper. Okay? Addressing global warming and pollution is an international effort. Meetings between presidents and CEOs, however, are not sufficient to address an effective solution because so many of the problems are issues for local government and not central government. The Daejeon Green Growth Forum offers the hope for cooperation between experts in environmental fields of study, local government and citizens. The recent proposal for working alliance of eco-cities offers up the possibility that local governments around the world can share resources and work together to achieve their goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yang. Before we open it up to the floor for questions, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you're doing in particular with regard to cities and municipalities in mainland China. You talk about partnerships with Japan and the United States, but how will China be brought into the process?
You got me. Maybe you can help me.
Okay, I can say a word.
Yeah. He's expert in China.
Not expert on China, but I did travel to Sichuan, to Chengdu, to actually discuss this issue. To start with, so far, we want. I'll talk about the concept, which was to try and do something with Daejeon, Tsukuba, and Palo Alto, which are relatively advanced, would be models. But of course, we would like to add a city in China, and we essentially haven't decided. We have not decided on it. And if you have any suggestions, we would be very happy to hear. The idea would be maybe just a justification for what we're trying to achieve is that there are models for eco-cities in, say, Europe, like Freiburg, for example, but that culturally they're not necessarily that compatible with, say, medium-sized cities in Asia for a variety of reasons. The way that they developed historically, the habits that individuals, say, citizens have. So by creating models, say, in Japan and Korea, and particularly Korea because it's in some ways closer developmentally to China, we're hoping to make something which would be emulated. But when I went to Chengdu and Sichuan, we were talking about the redevelopment of Dujiangyuan after the earthquake and how it could be rebuilt in a more ecological way, because this was a great opportunity. And I wrote an article with John Pfeffer on that actual subject. I would not say we were successful. The rebuilding of Dujiangyuan and Wenshan after the earthquake, we were, of course, we're not on the ground. We were not there, and most of it, the main issue was just building it as quickly as possible. But we would like to be involved with China more in the future, and it's our hope that Korea, because of the cultural cachet that it has, many Chinese watch Korean dramas and love Korean songs, and it has an immense sort of cultural influence that making it sort of a fashionable Korean eco-city would have quite a bit of impact in China.
Maybe I can add one thing. One of our active members of our forum is specializing in the gene cloning of the sweet potatoes, which can be used to solve the desertification of the China. So he's been actively involved in that kind of programs.
Thank you. We're going to open it up to anyone in the audience who'd like to ask a question. Just please identify yourself and your institution. We'll start right here in the front. We're recording, so if you could speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Michael McDonald, Global Health Initiatives. What a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. I appreciate the lead that you're taking. We held a U.S. Resilience Summit here in the fall, very similar concepts, but the focus was more on how do we create mechanisms for collaboration. And I guess the note that I would add to what you've laid out, it's very promising, the approach that you lay out. We started more from the challenges, and that is that there are huge human security concerns that are emerging all over the world now. And the technologies that you're talking about are potentially not only a green economic force, but also a mechanism of creating a safety net. The big concern that we have is that in the United States, our ecological footprint is way above the sustainable level. Not so much so in many of the Asian countries, but if we actually have to sustain functional life capacity and quality of life, how do we do that in a way that is sustainable? It seems like you're on the right track, but it may have to happen quickly, and it may have to happen with knowledge technologies as well. I'm wondering if you're prepared to deal with the technologies that would enable humans and their cultures and communities to rapidly adopt these kinds of technologies.
So, is it a question or comment? Well, I think, I'll try first. I think you are right, and unless that kind of technology development and this kind of green growth activities happens quick enough, then we might not be able to get the sustainability we desire, okay, in global scale. So I would rather put it this way. We have to be more conservative in energy spendings. We cannot go back to the 50 years or 100 years back to our life, okay? But people seek for convenient life and a better life, so energy spendings will increase. So, frankly speaking, there wouldn't be a permanent answers as engineers or technology measures, but we can at least do something. So if we mention about the renewable energies, anything, tidal energies and wind energies and fuel cells and every kind of renewable energies, we should always consider the efficiencies of that kind of things. And I've been involved myself in the development of renewable energies, including biomass utilizations or biofuels. But 20 years ago, we as a researcher used to say, we used to bluff, if the crude oil prices goes up to $60 per barrel or so, this technology, my technology, will become economically feasible. But now it's used to be $150, but nothing has been commercialized. So we have to be aware of that kind of fact. So
Okay.
you want to add?
I'll add as an American, from an American perspective, and what the importance of our visit here is, that many people say when outsiders addressing the Lee Myung-bak administration, or say the mayor of Daejeon will say, well, they have questions about how serious they are, how deep their commitment is to environmental policies. And I understand people being concerned, but I can tell you as someone who's interacted with these representatives that the level of their commitment is related to the level of your commitment. So to the degree that the international community responds to our efforts, I think there's infinite potential for how policies in Korea and China will evolve. But we need your support and your interest, and we need to make our efforts international in scale. And we're very excited about the opportunity to work with everybody here.
My name is Ahmed Mir. I used to be a science counselor in Korea for the U.S. Embassy. I had several questions. One is about the scale of the funding support at KAIST. And the other was that in the days when we were discussing Kyoto, one of our biggest disagreements and issues was the Korean commitment to very rapid growth of energy use and a fairly high level of nuclear power use. And the third thing is, one of the biggest problems about 10 years ago in Korea was industrial pollution. I mean, the rapid growth of Korean industry together with that grew pollution. Are those the areas that you will be looking at?
I didn't quite sure about your second and third question. It looks like similar to me. Rapid industrialization of Korea, right?
Right. Well, I didn't see the emphasis in the talk on the pollution part.
Okay.
I think a very difficult job.
Okay. I'll answer the first question. The KAIST budget, yearly budget, research fund is about, if we talk about 1,001 of the exchange rate, currency exchange rate, it used to be almost 150 billion US dollars per year. And our total budget is 3 times bigger than that, which is 450. And we have about 8,000 students, 3,000 undergraduate and 5,000 graduate. And our faculty size is rather small. We do have, at this moment, 464 or something. But we plan to increase up to 700. That's our status. And rapid economic growth, I told you in the beginning, as a consequence, as a result of that kind of rapid growth, we became the number 10 or number 9th carbon dioxide emitters. But now our industry structure is we have big steel makers, POSCO, and cement productions, and electricity generations, which is the biggest three big majors of carbon emitters. But we are trying to change our structure of industries, but it's not easy. But in a global scale, I would say, well, if we can escape from that kind of structure, some other countries, underdeveloped or developing countries, will take that kind of industry, right? Then in global scale, the carbon dioxide emission will be same.
If I can just add one word, Korea, although it's not the biggest country in Asia, has been the developmental model. So for people like, say, Deng Xiaoping and their efforts to develop China, they look to Korea as a model for how to achieve it. So say, if Korea embraces eco-cities or environmental policy at the center, even if imperfectly, the ramifications in Asia are substantial because it's being benchmarked by Vietnam, Mongolia, Thailand, Cambodia, Uzbekistan, and other countries.
That's true. We've been treated as a hero in East Asia.
Thank you. My name is Una Costel, and I work as a consultant for Environmental Defense Fund, which is a nonprofit organization. I just have two-part questions, please. I think a number of us here are aware that U.S. legislatures have been talking about putting a mandate on carbon reductions in the U.S. as a federal legislation. I would like to just see if you could comment on the likelihood of the Korean government placing a mandatory reduction kind of policy in Korea so that that reduction kind of policy will spur innovation and technology so that those technologies will become commercially viable in the near future. I feel like if you could comment on whether the policymakers in Korea have kind of recognized and embraced that having a mandate could spur that kind of innovation. And then second question is, could the Korean conglomerates who are in the energy-intensive industries, are they willing to embrace responsibility in trying to produce or kind of develop the technologies that are needed to reduce carbon dioxide in the near future? And that goes along with kind of having a mandate.
Okay. As in my paper, we do have very serious plans to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, short-term plans and long-term plans. And the central office in charge of that kind of reduction program is under the Prime Minister, and in addition to the Department of Environment, the Ministry of Knowledge and Economies of our country has a detailed plan to change each industry to reduce certain levels by doing this kind of thing and that kind of things. So, as I remember, it's a long-term plan. By 2050, will cut off our reduction, our emission 50% or something, and by 2020, we'll try to reduce 30% or something. I'm not sure about that kind of figures. And what was the second question? Almost saying energy.
conglomerates. So it's like Samsung or Hyundai. How are they pursuing these policies?
Of course, they should follow. Otherwise, all kind of regulations will be applied, and then they will be sensitive to the reduction. So each big company has got a special team who specialize on the carbon dioxide reductions, including the CDMs and kind of things. We are preparing for that post-Kyoto protocols and everything.
Maybe I could just say one word. Although we still don't have a concrete commitment from large corporations, if you look, say, at the list of events like this, in Seoul, the number of seminars and discussions about environmental issues involving LG, Samsung, Hyundai, and other large companies has increased exponentially. I'm sorry, I don't speak English anymore. Over the last 4 or 5 months. So, although
It's been in the abroad,
too long.
outside of the United States, too long.
So, in fact, that first step of actually getting people within the corporate world to speak on a day-to-day basis about how to address environmental issues, that change has happened in Korea. And the particularly important point from an American point of view is that it's the conservative government which has embraced this this position. So, although some people may disagree about the details, the mandate is there in Korea.
Thank you. My name is Dan Bob. I'm with Cannonbury Advisors and NIROC Partners. I had a question for you about some of your relationships with other organizations that have formed, in particular something called the Asia-Pacific Partnership for Climate Change, which is run out of the State Department currently, and it includes Korea, Japan, United States, China, Canada, and Australia. It has several task forces, including a task force on cleaner fossil fuels, which will hold its annual meeting in Seoul at the end of March. And they actually name specific projects as flagship projects that will be targeted to involve the various countries. So just wondering if you've run across them. And just a very quick second question. Hillary Clinton is going to stop in Korea shortly, and a key part of her trip to Asia is focused on global warming. Wondering if you can comment on what your expectation for her trip is, what your hope is for any outcomes.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate for the information you gave me, Asia-Pacific partnerships. But we have to frankly speak, our organization history is too short, so we haven't built many relationships with other organizations so far. So we will, but it's a good information, including many other partnerships we gathered during this trip. So I think if you might want to add some more.
We would be happy to meet with anybody from the Asia-Pacific Partnership for Climate Change and look forward to cooperating with that organization.
The second question about
Clinton.
expectations or hopes for the visit of Secretary Clinton to Korea.
For our forum, or as a Korean as general?
Both. Not in terms of the forum in particular, but the issues that the forum
Wow,
cares
this
about.
is a little bit could be political answers. But
We welcome her.
personally speaking, I would say Hillary Clinton would be very cautious about what she will. Maybe climate change she can address, but it's about the North Korean issues, right? She's coming from. Yes.
Well, I don't think North Korea is the sole focus of her visit. It will certainly be one of the topics that will be discussed. But I do think climate and other issues will, trade, will come up as well.
Climate and trade is the.
Well, as far as climate, global warming and environment is concerned, certainly is it would be our hope that would be, since it's one issues that we can pull everybody together in Asia most easily on that subject, and it does not have the other sort of political or historical baggage. I think it's an excellent point for encouraging cooperation in East Asia, and in some way, the whole point of our Green Growth Forum was to build exactly those sorts of bridges.
Thank you. My name is Henrik Hagedorn. I'm from the German Institute of Economic Research. My name is Henrik Hagedorn. I'm from the German Institute of Economic Research. My question relates to renewable energies. Like, if you compare different sources of renewable energies in terms of their costs and benefits, and if you're like equipping entire cities with renewable energy plants, do you come to a conclusion in terms of like which sources have more merits or less compared to others?
Wow, that's very important but difficult questions to answer. Let's say for certain single technology, if you use different data to estimate the economic feasibilities, then you will end up with a different result. So everybody who are in that field trying to make the result as favorable as possible. So I can say there's no concrete or definite result one can talk about, But generally speaking, I think fuel cell is not far away for a commercialization in a large scale. So it's a matter of different type of fuel cells we're talking about. But like a tidal energy or wind energy can only be useful in a local levels, which can be restricted to a special reasons, and can only occupy the very small percentage of our needs. And biomass, including biofuels, can be very possible if one can, or one company or individuals or country can have a stable line of productions. I mean the 공급받는 걸 뭐라고 그러죠?
Line of production, supply.
Supplies, or okay. Then it's the most possible means of renewable energy sources, I would say.
Make sure I'm not missing anything over here. Here, and then we'll go back.
Regina Dahl, International Student Conferences. I've heard a little bit about Songdo City outside in the Incheon area being a project for a
What?
Which
Songdo.
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 Songdo?
In Incheon.
Oh, yeah, Songdo, yeah.
The project for I believe it's supposed to be a green city out in the Incheon area, and I was just wondering if you've had any involvement with that project or have cooperated with them at all.
I'm not directly involved at all, but I heard about it, and then KAIST might be interested in getting certain land space in that Songdo area. I'm not sure. Maybe if you are interested in, I can send you information.
I think one of the things about the Daejeon green growth is that eco-cities, there are two issues. One is building cities from ground up as eco-cities, and the second is taking cities which already exist and transforming them. And we would be in the latter group. So it's the track is slightly different.
Hi, Mark Mannion from the Congressional Research Service. Thank you for your interesting presentation. I have two questions. The first is, could you explain to us what you know about the recent green stimulus, if you will, initiatives, these $500 or $600 million projects? How are they going to be funded? How will the government target its funding? And then secondly, South Korea is a very centralized government, or the whole system of government is very centralized. Local cities and provinces don't have very much power. So could you talk to us about some of the, but that's changing also. So could you talk to us about some of the opportunities that the decentralization of power is giving to you, and also some of the limitations that this very centralized system is imposing upon what you're trying to do locally?
Yeah. The first question is the President Lee Myung-bak decided to get a funding by asking additional budgets to the Congress, the legislations. So it would be $1 billion, maybe next month. He hopes. So, as I said, each project or program, big program, would cost $100 million. $100 million, that's right. And that's the source of fundings. And the second question is, yeah, that's.
If we stick on that one, how is the government going to pick the projects? How are they going to target that money? Not just where is it going to come from, but how will it be managed?
How will be managed? How will that be?
The $100 million for the project, if the Congress approves it.
Oh, that's the question?
You mean which ministry will be in charge of it? Or?
Well, depending upon what kind of project it is, the Minister of Science and Technology will be in charge of, or Minister of Knowledge and Economics will be in charge of. And I can say one thing more is this is not a pure R&D project. We don't have much time, so we will select the research, the project which we have already good background in science and technology in specific field, so that we'll just go for building prototype of whatever it could be, like electrical vehicles. Then I can talk about that. On the 27th of next week, right? 27th, almost 1 week from now, President Lee will visit KAIST on our commencement day, and we're going to show the demonstration vehicles. So we'll let him ride on that vehicle from that central administration building to the commencement site. So that kind of thing is how we'll manage to get the result. Is that the answer?
Sure. Can we go on to the second question?
Second
related
question
to
is very-
decentralization.
Yeah, decentralization is very difficult. So we do have, in fact, Korea is the most centralized country. As far as I know, the France and Japan is the most centralized country in the world among developed countries. But we, Korea, are categorized as more centralized countries. So decentralization, I would say, has been partly failed in Korea. So as you pointed out, local level of government didn't have much budgets, enough budgets and enough powers to pursue a big project or programs. So, but we have to work both for local levels. We have to work with local government and also with the central government. That's what I think. And I used to work for the central government too, so we'll be able to solve the problems.
More questions? Okay, we'll take one more question here.
Jim Pearson with the State Department. You mentioned that South Korea received some negative environmental impact from China, but you have a closer neighbor which also does not have a very high standard for environmental consciousness, and that is North Korea. I believe nowadays there's almost no dialogue going on between North and South, but in the past, for example, the No Mu-hyun administration, the Kim Dae-jung administration, was there ever a dialogue or cooperation with the North on environmental matters?
Was it?
Sorry, I missed the point.
Has there ever been a dialogue between North and South Korea on environmental issues?
There have
The
been
impact that the North has.
There have been a dialogue between North Korea and China,
South Korea
South Korea.
on environment
Has there been?
in the past.
I don't think so. Well, as far as I remember, there was no that kind of serious issues to be discussed. I'm not sure, but
There was discussion on DMZ about making the DMZ into a nature preserve, which took place, I think, I don't know, 4 years ago or something? But it was not.
It's always done outside. Between them, it's done indoor.
Right.
you know, the North Korea is not that kind of level. They have a room. They didn't have a room to think about environmental problems, as you probably know. They are in special situations, very serious problems.
But the problems are environmental. I mean, the issues of like land use and water erosion and loss of.
Oh, yeah,
It's all environmental.
that kind of issues. Of course, they have to think about floodings and.
Food security.
But I don't think they thought about global issues for their duties, like climate change kind of things. Maybe I'm ignorant of that kind of things.
We're going to wrap up a bit early so we can, I unfortunately have another session to pick up my child, so it's my fault that we're going to wrap up a little bit early. But I want to thank you all for joining us, and thank Dr. Young and Dr. Pastrich for their interesting presentation. And we look forward to hearing more about the forum as it proceeds. So thank you. Please
Thank
join
you.
me.